Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Holy See event, in which the Waterborn Templar is added to the game. So, of course, with May right around the corner, we have finally gotten the May event calendar, and gosh, do we have 1.5 billion things going on this month. There is not a single week where something isn't happening. So, of course, we have our current week that we currently have, where we have a Legends Reborn for Whitehelm that we'll be going over in a moment, with a bunch of pets for that. We have another Vault event weekend, though. After this, it looks like we are going on a bit of a dry streak for once, finally, for Vault event weekends. But it feels like every 2 weeks for the last, like, what, 2 months? We've pretty much had a Vault weekend, like 4 of them in, like, a 2-month period. It has been so many. But it does look like this is finally the end of us getting 1 billion of them, as the next 4-ish weeks. Probably that 5th week would probably be the Vault event then, like the first weekend of June. But yeah, it seems like the streak has ended, but still we got another one this weekend, so great time to go get it, as well as to go get the Legend Reborn's loot, as one of the things from it does require 1,350 gems, which if you don't currently have, you could easily get this Vault event weekend. Beyond that, it's also decently relevant that it is a Nexus event week. Quite a few things have an insane bonus this week, most notably the new Flower Dragon having 20% bonus. We knew it would get at least 10% this week, but it actually got the full 20%, and that combined with the Elemental pet that we're going to be having this Wednesday, very solid week to be running Elemental teams, particularly with Flower Dragon if you have it, though of course a lot of other Elementals from the Kingdom also have 20% this week. Beyond that, next week we have the start of the Spring event, where we'll be getting a new troop, new pet, all that kind of stuff with the Spring event, as it normally does, goes on for 2 weeks, which of course the current Whitehelm event is only a 1 week now. It used to be 2 weeks, but now you only have to do the Legend Reborn once to get it completely done, so it's a really short event now compared to how elongated it was in the past. But yeah, then we have the 2-week Spring event starting on the 5th, and that'll be going all the way until the Monday resets on the 19th, and get your legend, get your pet, all that good stuff from that. I heard that the legend is actually pretty decent. I've actually looked at it. Let's go take a peek. I haven't bothered using this too much, but we can actually see what it does right over here if we go over to troops. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? It should be a legendary here, which might be a little bit hard to see directly. Let me see. Oh yes, troop spoilers, that might help. I was like, wait, why are none of these new? Help if we go to the troop spoilers. It should be a legendary, and I assume it is this one. May 5th? Is that the right date? That should be the right date. Yes, May 5th, that is the day that it comes out. What does this thing do? Choose one. Either choose a mana color and convert 10 gems to the chosen color to enchant gems, which is purple gems that give you basically our whole team enchant, and bless all allies of that color. Or choose a mana color and convert 10 gems to the color of Entangle gems, which are green gems, and then curse all enemies of that color. Okay, so people were mentioning that this was kind of like Wand of Stars. But yeah, this is basically Wand of Stars as a troop. Interesting. It's unfortunate that it's 10 and not all. Though, in all realisticness, 10 is generally going to be all in most situations. And, of course, you could just make sure that it is targeted on something that's like 8, 9, or 10. But there are some situations where this might be a gamble if there's like over 12 plus on the board. But for the most part, yeah, that should be perfectly fine to run. It does that for 60 mana cost, pretty solid. And its special effect, give 4 life to all green allies when matching for an extra turn. So pretty bad. Just have a little bit of mana start. A little bit of spell reduction, but yeah, it seems like it's mostly for its ability. It's basically freeing up some space so you don't have to run Wand of Stars as often. Of course, this does have a restriction of, you know, being Vulpecia, being a Fey Beast, so there are a lot of times where you might not be able to use it. It's also purple-green and not every color, of course, like Wand of Stars, so a little bit more situational, but it does free up your weapon where you might want to still have a Wand of Stars effect, but, you know, want to free up your weapon for literally anything that isn't Wand of Stars. So, yeah, interesting to see how this pans out. It's definitely not going to be better than Wand of Stars, but it is definitely a option, to say the least. And we'll be getting that on the 5th, and you'll have all those 2 weeks to go and earn it. And, of course, it'll be in Drop Table a few months after the fact. Beyond that, other things that are going on this week. We have a patch. They have confirmed that there is a May patch. This is likely because the main thing that we know that's in next patch is it's going to be tweaking some things with Guild Wars, fixing some of the issues, all that. And they likely need to get that patch out before Guild Wars, which means the latest date that the patch for this month will be is probably the 13th. It could be on the 6th, but it's most likely to be the 13th. As they mentioned, it's in May, and we already know that it needs to be before Guild Wars. And it's likely to be at least a week before Guild Wars, because there's some things with Guild Wars that takes place the week of, so they would normally need to get it in before the week even starts. So the 13th is the most likely date for the 8.5 patch, I believe it is. Yeah, gosh, that number's getting high, but yeah, 8.5 patch. So yeah, that's almost guaranteed to be on the 13th, though there's a small chance it is on the 6th, but the 13th is the more likely date of the two. So yeah, we'll have that to look forward to, everything that ends up bringing in. And beyond that, of course, Guild Wars finally returns. We'll be having that starting the Friday of the 23rd. Or actually, sorry, does it start on the Thursday? I forget how these work now. Because I know they're a little bit weird. Yeah. It starts on the Thursday. That's what I thought. Because they have to start one day earlier so that they could fit in the full 4-day thing. But yeah, the Thursday of 22nd, we'll be having the Guild Wars finally returning. Of course, it's the biggest feature that was in 8.4, but they had to stop it after the very first one as they had a few issues that they had to fix, which is upcoming patch of 8.5 should be doing before the week ends up starting. And then on Thursday, we have the start of that event. So yeah, pretty eventful week. The only week that pretty much nothing is happening is the final week of the month. But then we'll have the calendar for the following month at that point, and then we can go from there. But yeah, every single week except the final week has 1.5 billion things going on. Anyways, with all that being said, let's actually start going over a couple of those things. So of course, one of the big things that we have going on this week is the Legends Reborn event. This has gotten revamped quite a bit compared to how it's been in the past, if you haven't played recently. Basically, you only have to go and do the quest line repeat only once. Before, in the past, you had to do this, like, what, 5 times to go get all rewards? But now you simply have to do it a single time, and you get all the rewards, and even more kill count. Generally, just doing your simple dailies will end up getting this. You get this every single time that you end up killing a yellow, I would assume. I didn't actually check, but I would assume that's a yellow. But every single time you kill a yellow enemy, you end up getting one of those. You only have to kill 200 over the course of the week. Technically, given that you're getting this, you only have to kill 140 of those. So regardless of what you do this week, you're pretty much automatically going to unlock all the free battles. But make sure to also go play out the quest line so you can get the one singular pet maxed out. Beyond that, of course, make sure to claim all your free ones. You'll likely get this automatically just from doing, anything in the game. Just getting basically 140 yellow kills over the course of the week should be pretty free. And then we have the 2 that are more questionable if you go for. I would highly advise, though, to scrap together 1,350 gems to go get all of these pets upgraded. Or all of this gem-related stack right here under this little blue category here. This is very good value, and we do have a Vault Event weekend this weekend, so even if you're at 0 gems right now, if you simply just partake in the Vault Event weekend, you can grind enough gems within a day or across the entire weekend to go get all these rewards here. So what do you end up getting here? So normally to max out a pet, if you were to do it from a pet event and throwing gems at it, it would require roughly around 2,700-ish gems, give or take a few hundred, up to about 3,000, as low as about 2003, depending on how lucky or unlucky you get. But this basically gives you half the cost for maxing a troop. It costs, or pet. It costs 1,350 gems to go buy all this, and it'll end up giving you the Celestasia pet maxed. On top of that, not only are you getting the pet at a basically 50% discount as far as how many gems it would require to max, but you also get enough pet food to max out 2 pets, one of him and then one of these other ones, as well as one of the bigger rewards, 10 Imperial Deeds. These things are really nice, and this is pretty much the most you can ever get for, pretty much free, quote-unquote free. It's still costing gems, but gems are pretty easy to obtain these days. So 10 Imperial Deeds, and on top of all that, you get enough Glory Orbs to max out a Mythic and still have some spares, as you get 3 bronze, 2 silvers, and 1 gold. So enough to fully max out a Mythic and a few extras. 3 bronzes, 2 silvers, and of course the gold to go max out 1 fully. So it is really good value for 1,350 gems, and I highly advise scrapping it together before the end of the week if you don't already have it accumulated. And then the only one that's really in question are the money-related ones. Personally, I would say it is not worth it. One thing that might be worth it if you do throw thousands at the game is going for $50 to end up getting 16 yellow deed books. This is most notable when it's a purple, but you could also do this every single time. It basically costs about $100 to doing it this way to max out a kingdom, where you're getting half the value to max it out from going up to the $50 mark. I personally don't feel like this is worth doing, as that is a lot of money. However, if you are someone spending a lot of money on the game, this is not a horrible way to go about it. This does max out the one little bird, which unfortunately isn't that good of a bonus, and of course gives you access to the only pet that's actually worthwhile here. So there are a few bonuses that we get here. The one that's completely free is the Grand Inquisitor. You get this from just doing out the storyline again. Overall, pretty bad, not really doing much here. Next is the Sacred Guardian. At one point in the game wasn't awful, but in the current state of the game, pretty much never being used. Even in an early game, there are just better options these days. So again, another pet that isn't too good. You also get very few copies of it for free these days. You used to get it maxed, but now you only get 6 for free, but it's not really that relevant anyways. Celestasia, unfortunately, even after it's a little bit of buff, still pretty much dead content. It's basically a support troop that doesn't do enough support to really be viable, but doing all the gems on it for 1,350. It does give you 5 to all stats. But then there's the one good one. You can get it for $5 to get one copy of it. However, this will be in drop table pretty much in like 2 weeks from now. So as long as your guild is doing a decent amount of pet battles, or, you know, doing a bunch of PvP to be able to get those pet battles, or even a ring if you happen to be, you'd probably get this in about the next few months or so, and it would just roll around in your guild. But this is Guard's Avatar bonus. This one is really, really, really good. You probably see me, including this week, making Tuesday event teams for that quick kill Tuesday events that end up utilizing Guard's Avatar. He is pretty much the second best troop in the game that boosts based on armor, with the best, of course, being the Legendary of Tesla. But when it comes to mythics, it is the strongest mythic that ends up utilizing this mechanic as far as armor boost ratio. And this not only gives him a little bit of magic to do a little bit more damage, but of course ends up giving him up to 5 extra armor once you go and get the pet maxed. For the most part, you can just skip it though. No reason to really spend money on it. Just wait a couple months and you'll be able to go get them upgraded. You'll be able to get a pet event for it, and then you can spend about 2,700 gems to go max them out, or simply just go and do the event once, get it for free, and then throw like a major pet orb or 3 small pet orbs and go get a max so you can go get your stats. It's a really, really good pet, but it's perfectly fine waiting on it. Of course, the alternative is you could spend $5 now and then use the pet orbs now to go and upgrade them if you so choose, which is definitely an option and a bit more reasonable compared to spending $50. However, you can get them for free in like a few weeks from now. It's just more so a matter of RNG if your guild eventually rolls him or not, but give it a couple months and he'll eventually rotate around. So overall, it's mostly just to get early access to him, as are most money purchases these days. It's mostly just to get early access to stuff rather than having to wait a little while, but you will be able to get him for free in a very near future, so not really too big a deal to go for it, but maybe worth going for if you actually want to get the little bit extra bonus immediately. Beyond that, other things that are relevant to this week. Where should we even start? Let's start from, I guess the teams. So, of course, we have quite a few things going on this week. One thing that's actually really worth noting, which I don't think I ever go in this tab and really mention it these days, ever since they nerfed it from 25% to 10%. I generally don't mention these too much, but this is a very, 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 very relevant troop bonus this week. It is 10% Nexus and 10% Elemental. As many of you know, Nexus is pretty much 100% Elemental. I think it has like 2 troops in it, like the dragon and like one other thing that is not Elemental. But pretty much the entire kingdom is Elemental. And most notably, as far as things that go in this category, is one very, very powerful recently added troop in 8.4, and that is, of course, the Flower Dragon of the Chrysanthax. This thing has 20% bonus this week. If there is any grind you want to go do, like probably Explore 12 grind while doing Vault Event weekend this weekend, this thing is so strong now. Not like it wasn't already. But 20% extra stats, if you were currently running Stellaryx for anything, like PvP and such, this week is time to go replace it with Flower Dragon for a little bit. Because this thing was already really good, but having 20% extra stats this week gives it so much more damage potential. So definitely utilize this to farm, particularly during Vault Event weekend. Definitely going to go hard on it this weekend for sure with it. Probably on Explore 12. I have basically ran out of tokens. We ended up last Wednesday for the 9-year anniversary of the channel going and spending pretty much all of our medals. And I actually have 2 kingdoms I can go get to 30 star right now. But I need to go do a bunch of Explore 12 grind that I've been putting off. So now I think it's the time to go do it. With both Vault Event weekend and 20% extra stats, there is no reason not to. The amount of one-shots that I could end up getting is so absurdly good. So, yeah, great week to be using the new Flower Dragon. If you don't have it, there are a few other things, of course, within the kingdom, as well as just Elementals in general that all have 10%. Even Elementalist Hero Class is 20% this week, as is both a Nexus and Elemental. So, a lot of things that have a lot of benefit this week that are pretty good to go use, between Elementalists, that, and just general Nexus troops having pretty much 20% extra stats down the line. And, of course, given that this is a Nexus event week, there are a lot of reasons to go and end up utilizing them. So, as far as Evasion event, Invasion event restriction. So, Invasion event restriction, I actually completely forgot. I assume it's just Elemental. I didn't actually bother checking. I just put the teams in. Yeah, it's just Elemental. So for the higher range, you can obviously just plow everything down with Flower Dragon. Since it is Elemental and not Nexus Elemental, you do have access to Mirage Queen, which gives you 50% mana start to your entire team. There's a few Empowers of various kinds that give you Empower, as well as Storms that can end up being pretty decent, so any of those can be pretty solid. And at the lower level range, you pretty much just run it like any Invasion team, where you run double of the Invasion troop, or, you know, not necessarily doubling up on it, but, you know, the current Invasion troop plus one other. Keep in mind, you have to use the Tempest Ballista in order to get double points on it, so do make sure to go and do that. However, it doesn't need to be upgraded in order to go and get your double points. It simply just needs to be on your team, and you'll earn double tower points for every tower that you end up killing. But anyways, let's go over all the teams. So these are Elemental Restriction. For the first team, we have basically just destroy everything with Flower Dragon, using Mirage Queen to get things rolling. This because we have to have it on our team in order to go get double score, and the Empower to go get things rolling. Unfortunately, there's no room to put Hero onto this team, but that's what we have the other team for. So the other team, of course, using Wand of Stars. Keep in mind, Wand of Stars actually is a Nexus weapon, so you can run this for Underspire as well if you have it laying around. If you don't, you can just run one of the explodey weapons. One of the most notable explodey weapons from this place as far as Nexus is concerned, which I highly advise getting in Soulforge. We'll mention it once we get there too. But it is the explodey weapon of the Tome. I forget exactly what its name is. I think it's like... Submerged Tome or something? Where is it? Nexus. I generally don't use this weapon as much ever since I added Wand of Stars. Yeah, O'Shea's Tome. But, yeah, this thing, really, really solid. Ends up exploding 4 gems for each blue ally and each elemental ally. So not only can you run this for pure elemental team, but you can also run it for pure blue teams. And of course, if you have an overlap of both, you're basically exploding the entire board. It also has a few good things going for it, like gaining Submerge. But most notably, it has Blue Storm on cast. So not only is it a blue thing that basically full board clears, but that also boost ratio is based on blue on your team. But it also ends up creating Blue Storm, meaning it actually has a higher extra turn chance from Cascade compared to having a non-Storm Wand of Stars. While there's no initial way to get an extra turn like Wand of Stars can, the follow-up on it is better at extra turning compared to doing a non-stormed Wand of Stars. So there are some situations where it can be better. Though, of course, Wand of Stars, generally just for its fact that it covers every color, is a lot more flexible with everything that it could do. But there are still some situations where you bring out O'Shea's Tome even over Wand of Stars. It's just really situational, mostly in pure elemental teams and 4 times blue teams as far as when you end up bringing it out. But still pretty good, especially depending on your restriction. But yeah, we're running that for the lower rarity team. Actually, no, what do we do for lower rarity team? Let me go back. Oh no, we're still doing Wand of Stars there. Wait. But yeah, we did Wand of Stars, but O'Shea's Tome is the thing that you can replace it out if you don't have Wand of Stars. But basically, we're just running a double tower killer. We're running one of the old tower killers and using it as a meat shield for our better tower killer. This makes it so you don't have to upgrade the current one. It also makes it so you can utilize the double magic damage that this has, as all the past tower killers that you can end up using for this category does not have double magic. But of course, the one from this one does have double magic, so to keep it a little bit more protected, you could put it a single tile back. Even though this thing is tankier with a 50% score reduction, which means technically it would be better in first slot, it keeps your double damage against towers just alive a little bit longer. So assuming you're fully maxing out this and fully maxing out one of the old ones, you would get to use your cast damage of double damage just a little bit longer, as it would be the only one that has it, whereas the other ones would not. And using this just helps cover more color variety, though of course you can also just double up, but you would also be missing out on some of the bonuses, as of course for having unique troops you do get the higher Nexus bonus, you do get the higher unique elemental bonus, which does have magic on it, so you do get a little bit extra magic, which of course also gets doubled with his double magic that he has, so it ends up working out pretty nicely. But that's pretty much the game plan for Invasion event, either double tower strategy or absolutely obliterate everything if you own Flower Dragon. As far as the faction event, this is a yellow-purple restriction. So, and of course, you're allowed to use any hero weapon for Underworld. So for this, we're running a pretty standard Guards, Avatars, Sir Quinn Hadley team. If you don't have this, you could just double up and land in the middle, or whatever you have for your best damage source. And of course, you can also trade out for Wand of Stars if you want, though this just covers every single last remaining color. As far as Guards Avatar, of course, as we mentioned, he is just got a pet added today. You can get him in the future, or spend $5 and just a bunch of pet orbs to max him out now. But regardless, he did technically get a buff today, with potentially up to 5 to all stats being higher. But yeah, his main purpose is to be used for Underspire events on Tuesdays, or even weekend events if you're going to go clear through them. It's really good at the lower level range, up to about level 100 or so. It can sometimes go a little bit deeper depending on your stats. And of course now he has about, what is it, like, does he have 1-to-1? He does. So that means he does effectively 7 to 8 more damage if you fully max out the new pet, as he has 1-to-1 based on his magic, and he has 2-to-1 based on his armor. So depending on what armor threshold you're at, you're either getting 7 additional damage, 5 from the magic, 2 from the armor, or 8 extra damage, 5 from the magic, and 3 from the armor, depending on if you already had 1 armor towards that value. So yeah, that's how much damage the new pet gives if you fully max it. 7 or 8 damage to whenever you cast Guard's Avatar. Obviously not like a huge amount, but you know, every little bit helps out. Comparing that to like fully elite leveling it, that's an extra 1 or 2 extra damage, whereas the elite level is giving it 6 extra damage, whereas the other thing is giving it 7 or 8 extra damage depending on where your armor stat is. So overall, not too bad. little bit of extra buff. He's mostly used for quick kill teams where you're restricted to basically have to use them, most notably Tuesday and Friday faction events whenever they roll around. Generally, either when you have access to yellow or brown is the main time that you bring him out, as it allows you to run both Guards Avatar and Sorquan Hadley. Sorquan Hadley giving all knights 50% mana start, and then Guards Avatar simply one-shotting every single battle until you end up winning it out. You're using Mech Hero Class to get rid of Submerge, you take a single extra turn and you get rid of it. And of course, Leprechaun just get the whole team rolling. Ideally, cast one Leprechaun and you just get good to go across the entire team. And it's pretty much the game plan for low-level raids whenever you have access to, or Underworld whenever you have access to brown or yellow. As far as the higher level range, we're just running pretty standard quick kill team. Just using one to start for mana accumulation, Leprechaun, and then whatever your best 2 damage sources are in between. Of course, we can end up going down the Flower Dragon route if you want with those 20% extra stats. It probably could get away with it. But we're just running a pretty standard double insta-kill, running Iron Gut Zolgoth here. And as far as the Pure Faction team, we have a nice diverse team of just Void Wisp. It is highly advised to only use Void Wisps. The main reason for this is stealthy. So if you run any one thing that isn't Void Wisp, it's going to get targeted like crazy, as every single target ability that the enemy has will be forced to have to target whatever the non-Void Wisp is on your team, which is basically just making it easier for you to die on that troop. So it is generally advised just running 4 Void Wisp as your entire team. This ends up creating 1 purple gem every single turn, meaning you're getting 4 total, as that does stack. And he just has a little bit of life steal, which means he does get to keep the life. And while he doesn't have anything to tank for skull damage or anything like that, or spell damage, he does have the benefit of, you know, gaining more life. So he has a little bit of life gain, he has a little bit of mana drain to get rid of whatever the most annoying thing that's about to cast on the opposing team is, while also gaining a little bit of extra magic, as it does get to steal the magic from the enemy as well as the mana. So he only really ever needs 8 mana to cast. Once he gets his first cast off, keeps getting a bunch more HP, and even gets a little bit of extra magic over time. But you basically spam this until you win. As long as you go into the final battle with at least 3 of them still alive, you should be fine. And then it's basically just a really slow damage poke over and over again, and just hope that you get enough purple mana to really get things off the ground. Also, one thing I do want to change here, it actually is better to run double purple brown here rather than the other way around, because he's creating purple every single turn. So we'll go just like this banner or something. But yeah, it's better to double up on purple, as he's creating 4 purple every single turn, which benefits a bit more banner wise. So we're going to go a little bit heavier into the purple there. As far as the Elemental Class event, it's basically just a diverse team of just spam Emberclaw. You can even go 4 if you really want to, but just run whatever hero class you need to get class XP on, and just run 3 Emberclaws. Emberclaw is basically budget Takshaka. He is in the event key drop table, which we'll be getting to in a little bit. He's one of the reasons why you would even want to open event key drop table. Highly advised to get 2 or 3 of him. He's basically super budget Takshaka, so if you don't have Takshaka but you wanted to mess around with the mechanic, this is the closest thing in the game to owning one, but is way easier to obtain compared to Takshaka, as you could easily obtain 3 of these for cheaper than how many keys it would cost you to get 1 single Takshaka. Same as if he's ever in Soulforge. It's a little bit of a waste to go throw gems on him to get him in Soulforge, but he's basically half the cost of getting a single Takshaka that way. And same as keys whenever he's around. And he is an event key drop table, so highly advise getting him this week if you don't already own him. And if you don't have the keys for it, Vault Event weekends this weekend, so you can get them then, and just open all your Vault keys before the end of the week. But he converts a purple gem into an Elemental Star. This does require there to be a purple gem on the boards, and of course for him to not be stunned. However, as long as there are 3 purple gems on the board, he will convert 3 of them into Umber Stars, or not Umber Stars, into normal Elemental Stars, which are those brown, red, green, blue ones. And this gives a lot of mana accumulation, creating 3 of these every single turn, which of course you could feed into whatever your damage source here. In this case, we're just running Black Manacle. But you can run Ruby Weapon, whatever you have, as your main option here. And there are quite a few teams that can run 2 or 3 of him. He does have a far, far, far worse ability than Takshaka, but his final trait, honestly, pretty comparable to what a Takshaka would otherwise have, with the only restriction being if they deny your purple, you're kind of out of luck. So you got to make sure your own team and the enemy team doesn't deny purple, but there's a lot of battles that you go into that neither of those are going to happen. So as far as Underspire, we actually end up utilizing this even for the high rarity team, as the best mana accumulation we have is this kingdom does not have an empower option. So the best way to get a lot of mana for whenever you are Nexus restriction currently is just do double Emberclaw to go feed your team. So we're using Wand of Stars here for normal Wand of Star shenanigans. We could use this for Curse, we could use it for Bless, we could use it to mana accumulate everything, and then we're just killing everything with 20% Flower Dragon. Also, I haven't bothered going through the entirety of Underspire in a while, but if you own Flower Dragon, 100%, this is the week you should be doing the entirety of Underspire. If there is ever a week you should do Underspire, it is this week. I don't think it is ever going to get more free than this. Wand of Stars, which is a Nexus weapon, the Chrysanthax, which is the new Flower Dragon if you own it, and double Emberclaw. this is pretty much just a meta team at this point, making no compromises at all, with the only thing really being that you're running, Emberclaw instead of Takshaka, but Emberclaw pretty comparable. If you're only using it for its final trait and not its ability, it's pretty much the same thing, since obviously the Flower Dragon is covering over damage, so this is as free as Underspire is ever going to get. So if you have Flower Dragon, run it. Honestly, even if you don't, you could easily get away with 3 Emberclaws into a Wand of Stars. That is perfectly fine. Honestly, you could probably even get away with 4 Emberclaw if you happen to not own Wand of Stars. I do advise going at least Wand of Stars if you do have it. But if you truly had to, I'm pretty sure 4 Emberclaws would be perfectly fine for the event. And as far as the low rarity range, I did go for a little bit of variety. Obviously, we just mentioned you can go triple Emberclaw, 4 times Emberclaw. But I did go a higher variety here just because it gives you a lot of stats. You end up getting pretty much a nice range of everything between 4 times Elemental and 4 times Nexus. Obviously, we're using Elemental as hero class here. Keep in mind, we cannot do 50% mana star Elemental troop. This troop does not reside in Nexus, so you do have to go and start all the way at 20% mana using the Anu metal. So unfortunately, you will not be able to go and start with 50%. However, 20% is still nice. You're still getting a little bit of Emberclaw mana. You have a decent tank here. Well, he doesn't actually tank, but he creates a bunch of brown, which you can end up utilizing as he keeps taking damage. So you're basically almost wanting him to die out. Not like deliberately killing him, but still gaining all the stats that you need. And then the Owl, oddly enough, not that bad. It's a really good finisher troop if you're bringing him into kill range with something like Emberclaw, because he does do damage to the first 2 enemies. But then you can go and end up cleaning up between all the damage you have. It deals damage to an enemy and freezes them. But the main thing that's interesting here is if the enemy dies, it creates 2 elemental stars and gains an extra turn. So this is really good as a finisher option, as you can go and kill the enemy, gain an extra turn, gain mana accumulation, and it is still your turn after all of that. As the 2 elemental stars don't need to land an extra turn for you to get your extra turn, assuming he's not frozen. Though he does have immune, so he'd have to get stunned and frozen for that to happen. But it's a really good cleanup troop. Very rarely used, but in the case of pure Nexus team, is a really, really solid option. And with 20% extra stats, it's a lot easier for it to actually secure its kill, whereas normally in the past it'd be a little bit harder to do so because, you know, less than 20% extra bonus stats. But it is pretty much just a nice diversity team. Get you all your extra stats. But worst comes to worst, you can literally just spam Emberclaw and you'll be perfectly fine and just go a pure Emberclaw team. With that being said, we have been mentioning event key drop table quite a bit, and yeah, Nexus is not bad at all. So let's go over everything that is and is not in the Nexus drop table. Of course, Nexus is one of the kingdoms that is relatively newer, so it does have quite a bit less options compared to the average kingdom that's been around for forever and a half these days. But let's go all the way down and start going through everything that is not in drop table. So, the things that are not in drop table include all of the Umbral Nexus troops. These are only from throwing Chaos Shards at Umbral Nexus. The Ballista, this is only from the current Invasion event. It will be in the drop table for the next Nexus event, but for this current Nexus event, it is not in the event key drop table, so you will have to spend gems in the Invasion event to go and obtain this. Highly advise getting to tier 3 so that you get both the weapon and at least 1 copy of this so you can get your double score for the event to help out your guild. As far as other things that are not in drop table, unfortunately, the Lovers, which is required to get Wand of Stars, is not in drop table. Luckily, it is in the Vault Key drop table, and of course, we have a Vault event weekend this weekend, so you can end up getting it. Its rate isn't any higher this week. However, yeah, highly advise doing that if you don't already have it. Wand of Stars is amazing, and yeah, it's only in the Vault Key drop table, but of course, Vault event weekend. Other things that are not in drop table include the 2 Immortal troops, which are only throwing burning marks at the chest from PvP. And of course, unfortunately, the other thing that is not in drop table, obviously, is the Flower Dragon. This is only from the new Flower Egg drop table that's in Soulforge, at 600 Dragonite each, and you need to get 1 of each of the dragons, craft the 3 weapons, and then you can get yourself your Chrysanthax, among one of the strongest troops in the entire game, and really, really great overall. Still a lot of instances where you run Stellorcs instead, but with 20% extra stats this week, it is an absolute powerhouse. But of course, is not in event queue drop table, which means the only 2 mythics that are honestly pretty average. Aquaria and Calica. Neither are really over the top. Either of them are really ever used that often. If you're running event keys for any reason at all this week, there is one very specific reason why you're running event keys, and it is to get yourself 2 to 3 copies of Emberclaw, or even 4 if you really wanted to run that for Underspire this week. But yeah, you're mostly looking for 2 to 3 Emberclaws. It's basically budget Takshaka, and I would advise not leaving this week without 3 of them, as it's just really great to have around, especially if you don't already own single or double or triple Takshaka yet. Obviously, it doesn't fit every restriction, like you can't run this for Naga and a few other things that you run Takshaka for. Its ability is a bit worse, so if you're running this as your sole damage source, it's a bit slower to win compared to Takshaka. But as far as his final trait, it's nearly the exact same. If we go over to Takshaka real quick, of course, the troop that we've been mentioning a bunch for this, it's effectively the same thing. it creates a 3 times wild card when its turn begins, and the other one ends up creating a 4 times color card. So obviously this counts as every color, so it does have a little bit more diversity with it, but the other one ends up creating one that counts as 4 colors, brown, red, green, and blue, while also doing a bunch of extra mana accumulation if it was to land. So while it does land a little bit less often compared to wild cards, it's still covering 2/3 of the same colors that this wild card would otherwise be doing. And a lot of situations when it lands will actually be mana accumulating for more than what a wild card even would, even though the wild card has a slightly higher chance of landing. So very, very comparable, at least from a final trait perspective. They also both, I believe, have a little bit of score reduction, so pretty much their traits are almost exactly identical. It's just Takshaka's ability is way better, which is the main gimmick that it has going for it, as well as it's just being more consistent at getting mana, so a lot better in like a PvP situation. But Emberclaw does get the job done, and particularly for a lot of things this week, given that it has 20% extra stats, given that a lot of restrictions this week are elemental. So still really great to have, great utility troop, and if you want to run Takshaka but cheaper, yeah, get yourself some Emberclaws, and shouldn't take that long at all. Actually, we'll do an example one. Let's see, can we get an Emberclaw within 50? Oh, nope, we can get a Mythic though. Come on, please, Emberclaw. There we go, we got it within 100. So yeah, it wouldn't take that long at all to go get yourself a few of them. What's this drop rate? There's like, what, 3 legends in drop table? So it's like a 1% chance per event key. Okay, that's a little bit lower than I thought. That just makes sense. We opened 100 and got 1. So that's pretty much exactly on drop rate. But yeah, it's about a 1% chance per event key that you would end up getting him. So to be able to get 3, you'd have to spend roughly 300 event keys this week. But if you don't already have that, you can get 10 of them from, I already claimed it earlier, but you can get 10 of them from the resource thing over here at 180 glory each all the way to the left of resources. You can end up getting it there. And of course, we have Vault Event Weekend. So if you're missing any event keys, just grind Vault Event Weekend, open all your Vault keys over in the Vault Key tab, and yeah, go cash in on getting your event keys. And just keep doing it. And within a roughly 300, give or take a few dozen, you should hopefully get yourself your 3 Emberclaw if you don't currently have any of them. Anyways, let's go over to Soulforge now. Actually, did I go over all the teams? Yeah, I did go over all the teams. Oh, yeah, forgot. We only have a Vault event with this weekend. So it didn't show any teams there because it's always the same thing every single Vault event weekend. You either just run like Flower Dragon Quick Kill and Explore 12. You run your Rowan Quick Kills, your Tesla Quick Kills, pretty much whatever you want to run. Obviously, the really strong Dust Devil teams for those Quick Kills. If you happen to have Dust Devil options, the One-Shot Explorer. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Though there's a team that we could run for Explorer, but what I meant to show was the 2 Iron Hawk teams. You run this for things like running Paloozas. You run this for things like running, getting all your verses and everything. So, you know, the teams never actually change, so I normally don't include them in the video thingy. Beyond that, other things to go over. Soulforge. So, Soulforge, the only mythic really worth mentioning is Arachne Weaver. Arachne Weaver, very situational. In the current state of the game, it doesn't get used much, but it does have some use cases for Guild War, most notably the Defend Guild War. I believe the Elf restriction is one of the ones that come up a little bit more often, like Elf or Monster restriction. I don't think Soul Carry is in PvP, actually. Is there any kingdom restriction now that I think about it for PvP Defend? I don't think there is. But Elf and Monster, you can end up utilizing this. More so, I would say, for Elf than Monster, but both of them can be utilized. But basically, this thing has a few things going for it. It has 4 times web, which is still among the best web options in the game. Has a bunch of true damage, and if it gets a kill, basically it gets to explode the entire board, which is really solid. But its most noteworthy thing that's always been known for is it has one of the best trait setups in the entire game. It has Stealthy Impervious into the best summon that's on any trait in the game. Not necessarily off of any ability, but specifically off of traits. It has Stealthy Impervious, which means it's really hard to target. It has immune to stun, it has immune to freeze, stuff like that. But more importantly, so it is stealthy as well, so it can't be targeted directly. But more importantly, pretty much anytime you get a kill, you'll be replacing out whatever died on your team with a web spinner, which generally speaking, given that first slot is the most likely to die, will be your first slot. Web spinner does triple damage to almost everything in the game. As long as the enemy does not have immune to poison or web, it will deal triple damage to them every single skull that it takes. This is a lot of extra damage to be doing on skull pressure, and the web spinner, while not particularly consistent at doing so, can loop infinitely into itself. It doesn't do this at a really good degree compared to some things in the game these days, but it can still do it. It can easily cast like 2, 3, 4, 5 times in a row. Might not miss still on the first time, but it has potential to still extra turn loop. So not only does it have a potential extra turn loop, but it also has triple damage every skull it takes pretty much, which is really, really, really solid for a summon. Unfortunately, it is a percent chance, so there are some times where it just goes really badly, but it's a really good comeback troop. It's one of the troops I would consider in the category of it's meant to not lose rather than win quickly. You're putting Arachne Weaver on your team because you're putting it on a defend team or an offensive team where your main goal is not to win quickly, but rather to not lose, which is Guild War is probably the most noteworthy situation where this comes into play, which of course Guild War is coming back this month, and this is the last opportunity I believe you have, because I don't think we have a Zolkari event coming in through there, do we? Zolkari, yeah, this is the last time to get Arachne Weaver before the next Guild War, so if you do want to set it as your defend team, I don't think offensively we'll need to use it. I think it's like Divinity Fields or something. Actually, does this say here? Wait, I didn't actually check that. What is the, yeah, it is Divinity Fields. So for next Guild War, you do have to use Divinity Fields. I believe Artima is the one that's getting shinied. I'm not sure exactly what her ability would do, but I think she might get to hit another enemy. I think the main thing that she does is hit 2 random enemies, like the 2 weakest, so she might end up doing the 3 weakest, which is actually a huge buff to her if they end up doing that, as it basically makes her a full AoE where she hits everything except the strongest enemy on the opposing team. So that's pretty solid if that's actually what that does when max shiny. She's a really dodgy troop, has a really high dodge rate within the game as well. So very situational, but you know, at least for the event and like 4-time Centaur teams, she would kind of get dragged out. But the main reason you would use Arachne Weaver is for defense, elf defend, monster defend. If you're doing a setup that has either or, you would definitely incorporate a Arachne Weaver into your defend team in those 2 situations. And this is the last opportunity you have to get it. It's not like a must-have mythic in the current state of the game, but if you're late enough in the game and you're looking for mythics to craft to kind of help with very specific game modes, this is something that can help you out with Guild Wars defend. Beyond that, as far as Soulforge is concerned, there's a few good weapons, but of course the one that we've already mentioned multiple times that I highly advise you go for, and I highly advise not leaving this week without, especially since we have Vault Event Weekend to go grind all these loot if you don't already have it, is the O'Shea's Tome. It is a really good exploding weapon, basically explode the entire board. It has Ice Storm, which feeds into itself, as well as a lot of your team, as generally when using this, you're generally using at least 2 or 3 blues on your team, most likely, unless you're going down like a pure elemental route. But even if you're going pure elemental, it itself is a blue, plus at least one other thing you're on your team is probably going to be a blue. So you end up gaining a lot of extra blue that way. You have a lot of extra turn chance because of the blue. And of course, between the blue storm, this weapon, and whatever your other blue troop is on your team, we'll be getting all that extra blue mana. So overall, really solid weapon. It gets used a lot less these days compared to Wand of Stars, but it is still a really good mana accumulation weapon that does have its use cases, and unfortunately has to compete within the same kingdom. However, there are still a lot of times where you do end up bringing it out. But it's pretty much the only weapon I would really say is of extreme note, unless you're just getting other things for like completionist sake and such, as is by far the strongest thing that you can end up crafting as far as any one given thing, as well as Wand of Stars. But Wand of Stars you can get whenever, even though it is a Nexus weapon. It is specifically a Nexus weapon you can get whenever, whereas O'Shea's Tome is only this week, and you gotta wait for the next Nexus event before you'll be able to get it again. So definitely make sure to pick up that O'Shea's Tome. Beyond that, Legends Reborn we already went over. Don't forget to go claim your daily free ones off the yellow. Don't forget to go to the quest line at least once. Ideally, don't forget to go spend 1,350 gems after you've killed all your yellows in order to go get the very, very good loot. Some of the best 1,350 gems you can spend in the game as far as overall value that you'll get in return. Beyond all that, I feel like there's like something important I'm missing. Invasion event we already went over, but just to reiterate, the Ballista has double magic, ends up having double score, highly advised running in every single battle. Buy to tier 3 so you get the weapon. Weapon's pretty useless, but just for completion's sake so you don't have to buy it later, it is highly advised to go get it. Gives you slightly more battles for the team. And of course, by the second tier, you also get the Ballista, which you need for your double score to help out your guild, as well as just to obtain the troop for completionist purposes. The kingdom can reach 24 star, I believe it is right now. It technically says 25, however, you would have to have the 2 troops upgraded pretty far, like level 20, and I highly doubt most people have either of the 2 immortals there upgraded to level 20. It might be possible that some people do, but I think even if you bought every PvP pass, it is very unlikely that you have either of them to level 20 yet, unless you got like absurdly lucky on one of them, because I believe neither of them were the featured immortal at any point. So if they weren't, then yeah, it was very unlikely that either of them would have ever gotten that high. So it is pretty much locked out due to the immortals being the main thing, kind of blocking you from being able to go any higher, unfortunately, at the moment. But at some point, we'll have enough troops to finally get Nexus all the way max. But still, like many of the older kingdoms, still has a ways to go before it really gets all the stars that it needs to really get up to the point where it can 30 star itself. Beyond that, of course, the new troop. So we did end up getting a new troop this week, beyond just the Ballista. It is pretty bad, though. Great time to stock up on green-blue arcanes. If you need a ton of these, they're only effectively 200 glory each, so great time to be getting all those if you need to go upgrade them for any reason, any green-blue troops in the game. But as far as this new guy in general, he's pretty bad. He gives a bunch of armor and life to an ally, and if they are an elemental, bless and bury them. This is pretty standard, just useless boost troop in the game. Very unfortunate, just doesn't have much of a use case at all in the current state of game. Anything that's kind of boost like this, especially for just pure durability, just never really going to get used. This type of troop in general is just really, really bad. Very few of them are ever viable. And even though Elemental is a pretty decent typing, the actual effect that he's overall doing with absolutely zero follow-up whatsoever just isn't good. His traits aren't good. It's just a very dead troop that is never going to get used than to go get a bunch of extra kingdom upgrade and to get a bunch of tokens of all those arcanes. But beyond that, there just really isn't any reason you would bring him out under pretty much any circumstance. There are just so many better green blues, even from the kingdom itself, like that one bird that we were showing earlier that can clean up all the kills and create a bunch of mana accumulation and have extra turn and still have gem spawn every single turn. There's really no reason to run the new knight. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I'll probably also have somewhere in the description this calendar if you want to go check it out yourself and reference anything throughout the month. But yeah, looks like we have a pretty eventful month, really busy month. We pretty much have the current Whitehelm event for all the pet stuff that we were going over earlier. Then we have Volt event weekend for like the 4th time in 2 months. Then we have a 2-week-long spring event, which will be bringing in the old spring armor, a new legendary troop that's basically alternative Wand of Stars. So if you don't have Wand of Stars and been finally wanting to try it, you can finally do that if you haven't already gotten it from all the Volt events and everything. But if you still don't have it by this point, yeah, you get a troop version of it. This also allows you to free up your hero potentially in some situations. While it is a lot more situational when you'd run this over Wand of Stars, it does free up a lot of space that otherwise would not have been available for your weapon. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out in the future. And definitely a little bit more obtainable version of it, especially given that it's basically free during the event. Then we have what should be a patch on the 13th. Then Guild Wars the following week, starting on that Thursday. And then the only dead week is the very last week, which we'll just go into whatever the next calendar is for the following month. But overall, very eventful upcoming 4 weeks or so. So really looking forward to it. Anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful week, a wonderful month, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.